Yo, 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 what's good? It's your boy Mendoza coming at you live with another tutorial from Plus 48 Productions. Vibe with me. Today we're going to start a 3 to 4 part series on walking through an entire mix on a stereo 2-track. And we're going to go from start to finish on the mix process, setting up auxes, effects, compressors, EQs, you name it. We're going to go through it from top to bottom. The session that we're going to work on is a song called Politics as Usual by a group called Artificial Christian. Super dope group of guys. Very talented, and if you like any of their music, I'll go ahead and drop their link down in the description below so you can check them out, and I'm sure they'll appreciate the love and support. Where we're going to start off today is just going over how I import sessions into Pro Tools when I get them sent from another Pro Tools user. So in this case, Artificial guys, they use Pro Tools, they record all their own stuff, and then they send it on over to me with the rough mixes and everything already inside. And I just get to work. So I use a lot of templates. So in this template, I have it set up with all my auxes, all my effects, and my mix bus ready to go. It just helps me and takes away the hassle of creating the sessions over and over and over again because I just found something that works for me. And maybe it will work for you too. If you guys are interested in getting the templates that I use for Pro Tools, just hit me up and I will go ahead and get those to you, or I will go ahead and drop the link in the description if we get enough people wanting it. So when I get their sessions, I go ahead and download them, and then I use Shift-Option-I. I go to my downloads or wherever I got it from, and then I select the actual session that they sent me. In this case, it would just be Politics as Usual. By default, I believe that this says link to source media where possible. We want to go ahead and change that to copy from source media. What that enables us to do is actually copy the files that we select down here into our session, and in any instance, if we lose the session that they sent us or anything like that, we don't have to worry about missing any audio files because we have it copied. If we have it in link to source media where possible, there's a possibility that you can lose a lot of audio files if you lose those sessions, and that's just not very cool. So I would go ahead and I would select all of these because this is the entire song, but in this case I'm just going to select the beat. I would go to any of the tempo or markers or kick signatures that they have if I know that they're already in there after opening up their rough session. But in this case they don't, so I'm going to just select this and then I'm going to press OK, and it imported it right there for me. And as you can tell, it's a lot longer, it's a lot louder than the beat that I have up here, but that's because of the process that I go through in order to get my levels right and everything. So if we go ahead and delete this real quick, we can get started. So the first thing I like to do is listen through the song, obviously, see where they're going with it. After all that's said and done, I kind of got an idea and I'm ready to get into mixing. I go to the very front of the track. By default, that's set up right there. We notice that there's a blank section right there before the first initial transient or the beat starts. So what I like to do is I go into slip mode right up here, and you can grab this with the finger tool and drag this red diamond over to the first initial transient, or about. I'm just eyeballing it. Let it go. So now what that did was it put the 1 count right on that first initial transient. I could change it to put it anywhere if I wanted that to be the 1 or anything like that, but in this case, I'm going to go ahead and leave it right there because that's the 1, that's the 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. As we could tell that it's not really lined up because that should be on this one, but it's not. So what we can do is we can start it from right there, and I will go up here and select that, make sure it's lit up, and I'm going to play the song and use T on the keyboard to tap tempo to get the BPM. I'm going to go ahead and do that now.
LPS, I think we got to get into.
So you notice how it was kind of living around 94, 95, but it kept going back to 95, so I kind of just left it right there. And if I select grid mode now, you could see that it is pretty close to lined up right on the grid for all the initial transients, and that's what I was looking to do. So what that allows me to do is have the freedom to edit this beat and make chops or stutters or anything of that nature that the song may call for in the mixing process, and it helps it make it a little easier. So if I go to the very front, I can kind of show you what I mean. Say if I wanted to repeat this part 4 times, I could easily do that by just selecting it off, and I'm just cutting it with Command E, and then duplicating it with Command D. And then you'll see. So you could do cool stuff like that and kind of add your own creative flavor into the beat, even though it's not, it's only a 2-track and we don't have that much freedom with it. So it's really cool. You could also use tab to transient, which also helps a lot if you have it selected up here. You can use tab and it will take you to the nearest transient, which is awesome. So after I got it all set up, I want to make sure that I have all my auxes set up. Auxes are a real big thing for me because it just helps my workflow a lot. I think it will help yours too if you just start implementing them because they're very useful. So basically what I do is I create an aux, and in order to create an aux on Pro Tools, you can Shift Command N and then select whether it's mono or stereo, or you can use Command left and right like that to select it. I'm going to choose stereo and keep holding Command and use up and down to select what type of track you want to create. Audio track, aux track, master fader, etc. In this case, I'm going to use the aux input. I will create that. This would come up. I will name it just as so. And then I would go to the input of this and I would select the bus that I wanted to send it to. So in some of your cases, it might say bus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and all the way down like it does here. But I have mine named. In order to do that, you can just go to I/O, go to buses, select them, put the names of the things that you want to save, and then export settings and save them inside wherever I/O settings. And you can see I have a few of them. So after that, I want to make sure that I have one for my beat, my vocals, as you see, Vox, and my effects. Those are my main 3 auxes, besides the main one, which is the actual mix bus. So what I mean is that I create an aux and send this aux to the mix bus, which is right here. This one's selected mix, and everything and anything is going to this channel right here. So it's acting as a master fader or a mix bus. After that, I go to my vocals and I have all my vocals routed to a Vox aux right here, and I send that Vox aux to the mix. And then I have in my template all my effects set up and sent to an effects aux, which is located right here. And then that effects aux is then going to my mix bus as well. In the middle of it all, if I have groups of vocals like I do here and here, I'll send those to their own aux and treat them as if they're one vocal. So as you can see, I have hook harm going to another aux, which I created, called hook harm. And then I have those hook harms going to my vox. It's a little bit confusing, and if you want me to break down the way that I do my auxes a little bit more in detail and just have a specific video for that, just comment in the section below and I'll definitely get to that, because it's super helpful, especially when you have a lot of multi-tracks like drums and all kinds of percussions and bass and everything that you could think of. So after that, everything is routed from here, here, and here. And all that stuff is going into the vox, the effects, and everything is being spit into the mix bus so you can process the whole entire mix. Alright, so after I do that and I got that nice and set up, I'm going to select a section of the song. Because if you notice, when I pulled in the beat, it was definitely way louder than it looks right now, because I've dropped this down negative 13.2 decibels, which is quite a bit, because they probably had a brick wall limiter on there and then just kind of made it louder for the sake of the artist. But it kind of handcuffs us mixers, huh? So what I'll do is I love to put this compressor on right off the bat, and I'm gonna take that to 0, and you're gonna notice how much it is compressing. Like, you want to find a loud part of the song that has drums, bass, everything, and notice how much it's compressing.
Budget out of balance, but it's handling on my deficit.
It's compressing about 5 to 7 dBs, and I don't want that because the beat's already compressed. So I'm just using this for coloration and to tell me where I need to set my level, because I kind of know on this where I like it, just to add that little bit of color. So for me, I want it to barely be touching 1. So check it out. So at about negative 13.2 decibels, it was touching that 1, and I just left it at 13.2 because it's consistent across the board, and that's where I had it at first. If you don't have Pro Tools and you're using something else that doesn't have a trim knob like this, you can use a trim plugin, a gain plugin, and then just kind of draw that down, or you could essentially just grab the fader and then go down until it's touching just 1, because this is an aux and it's receiving the signal from the fader. But for me, I'd like to use a trim knob and leave the beat at 0. Alright, then next I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of balance with the verse. Check it out.
On my deficit, like we up in DC and I'm writing on the desk again, legislating love, taking on precedence, battling the plague where the pistols are the pestilence. 1600 residents, but heaven ain't on Pennsylvania. When that's where the crown and the losers bear the mark of Cain. Wait, only online though, where the fake news is final. The racial tension so old they.
Alright, cool. So you noticed right there that I kind of just set the balance a level, and you notice that it actually sounds pretty decent because they have a great recording And that's like one of the main things, guys. If you want a great mix, make sure that you have a great recording, because without it, then you're not going to have a good mix. Alright, so after I did that, I went ahead and added a little bit of saturation. Nothing crazy, 0.1. It's kind of subtle. Check it out.
Budget out of balance, but it's handle on my deficit. Like we up in DC and I'm writing on the desk again. Legislating love, taking precedent on precedence. Battling the plague where the pistols are the pestilence. 1600 residents for heaven.
Kind of just helps bring it forward a little bit. And then I went ahead and did a bit of mid-side processing. So I have a little bit of this area dipped out, 7K to 1K. It's about 800. And then I have a little bit of like 4K and a wide. I have a pretty wide bell on it because this is kind of where my vocal lived. And then on the sides, I cut out a lot of the side stuff. Of the low end that I didn't like, and there was kind of like a little bit of wonky stuff in here that I didn't like. And then I believe that I was just trying to bring out the snare a little bit more. So as we see right here, I got this little dip going, and that's kind of just making room for the vocal. I'm gonna go ahead and bypass this and play it with the vocal, kind of see what it does.
Budget out of balance, but it's handle on my deficit. Like we up in DC and I'm writing on the desk again. Legislating love, taking precedent on precedence. Battling the plague where the pistols are the pestilence. 1600 residents, but heaven ain't on Pennsylvania. When that's where the crown and the losers better mark a king. Wait, only online though, where the fake news is final. The racial tension so old, they go up on a...
So it's kind of subtle to hear, but it kind of just like brings the beat and the vocal together a little bit better already before I start even mixing anything, because the vocal's like on top of the beat, and then you do that and it's kind of sits back in the beat, and they kind of just mesh a little bit together. And then I just decided to try to beef it up a little bit with a Transient Designer by Isotope. And now this is a multi-band Transient Designer. It's really cool, and just helped bring the punch out of it. I did a little bit, like 2.5 about on everything, in the snare area and that kick area. So check out what that was doing.
Budget out of balance, but it's handle on my deficit. Like we up in DC and I'm writing on the desk again. Legislating love, taking precedent on precedence. Battling the plague where the pistols are the pestilence. 1600 residents, but heaven ain't on Pennsylvania. When that's where the crown and the losers better mark a king. Wait, only online though, where the...
Now it added a little bit of volume, but I'm okay with that. It wasn't nothing too drastic, so I was definitely okay with that. And then I added just the compressor on it, but it's not even touching it. It's literally not doing anything. It's at 1 to 1, and it's just kind of adding a little bit of color. And then after that, I kind of just fattened it up a little bit with some tape saturation, and that's about it. Check it out. Really pay attention to the low end and how it kind of rounds it out.
Budget out of balance, but it's handle on my deficit. Like we up in DC and I'm writing on the desk again. Legislating love, taking precedent on precedence. Battling the plague where the pistols are the pestilence. 1600 residents, but heaven ain't on Pennsylvania. When that's where the crown and the losers better mark a king.
I don't know about you guys, but that's beautiful to me. So after that, guys, I kind of just like make sure that my master fader's not getting blown up. I'm gonna go ahead and play it one more time for you guys.
Budget out of balance, but it's handle on my deficit. Like we up in DC and I'm writing on the desk again. Legislating love, taking precedent on precedence. Battling the plague where the pistols are the pestilence.
So I use the K14 metering system. For those that don't know about it, 0 is basically -14, so I'm mixing into -14 in order to leave like 14 decibels of headroom for mixing for mastering. I'm sorry. At the end, it just leaves you a lot of headroom. If you want to know a little bit more about that, I could also do a video. Just let me know. I'm fairly new to it, but I really like it, and it's helped my mixing out a lot, and just allows you to have a lot more headroom. It's super dope. So if you want me to do a video, just let me know, and I could get to that. Now I have one more plugin on the actual stereo track, but we won't get to that until afterwards. That's has to do with the vocals. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this video and start a part 2. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys have any questions about the auxes and stuff like that, feel free to ask me. I know that could get a little bit confusing. And this stuff can also apply to other DAWs too. It's just not Pro Tools. Like, you can set up your auxes in Logic and Ableton, whatever you're using. It doesn't matter. Studio One, it really doesn't matter. All the same principles apply. So if you have any questions about auxes or routing or stuff like that, feel free to let me know. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And even if it's a good topic and a lot of people have a question on it, we can definitely do a video about it. When we come back next time, we're going to get into mixing of the vocals, EQing, compression, saturation, all that good stuff. So come back, tune back in. It's Plus 48 Productions. Vibe with me. Peace out, guys.
Budget out of balance, but it's handle on my deficit. Like we up in DC and I'm writing on the desk again. Legislating love, taking precedent on precedence. Battling the plague where the pistols are the pestilence. 1,600 residents, but heaven ain't on Pennsylvania.